Hi, today we'll do an example code in Java. We will process an input file on your desktop containing the titles of books in order to identify duplicates. The program reads all of the titles from an input file called booktitles.txt, not imp.txt, and reads them to an output file called duplicate_titles.txt. When complete, the output file contains all the duplicate titles, so what you're going to have to do is make a file called booktitles.txt, put it on your desktop, and put some book titles in there, or strings that are exactly the same, and then put some that aren't the same, and just put like maybe 25 to 50 lines or something. And make sure you put them in a note file and kind of just like space them out, so make sure you put a new line and then put another one, put a new line, then put another title, then put another one, and like keep doing that, and then maybe copy like 10 and duplicate them and stuff. So we'll just start with the code. So public class main public static void main string array args. Then we'll say throws IO exception. Then up here we'll just put import java.io .star. Then we'll open these brackets. So we'll create some strings here. We'll set them equal to just empty quotations. So string output equals empty quotations. String line 1 equal to nothing. Then string line 2, string line 3, and then we'll create a boolean variable isDup. So it's gonna basically, it just says isDuplicate. We'll set it to false initially. We'll create a print writer. So there's two ways to do this. You can put the file in your src folder too, but we're not doing that way. We'll actually work with the path. Excuse me. So you'll be working with the paths a lot in computing and computing science and stuff. So you'll be using that in like C# and Python, and in like the command prompt and stuff like that. So we'll just work with the file paths here in Java. So we'll just create a print writer. Print writer pw equals to new print writer C semicolon shift semicolon 2 forward slashes users, then forward slash the name of the computer. Then put it on the desktop, and then we'll call this file temp book titles .txt. Sorry to fix some mic, so hopefully you can hear me a bit better. So temp book titles.txt. So what we're doing is we're creating an output file. So it's an output stream. Print writer creates an output stream. So we can just say output stream. Then we'll create another print writer. Let's see. Yeah, so we'll create another print writer here. pw2 equals to new print writer. So we're creating another output stream, and then we'll say C shift semicolon 2 forward slashes user. So this is how you write file paths in Java. Name of the computer. We want it on the desktop. Then we'll say duplicate titles.txt. So that's where we'll put all the duplicate titles. So this is also an output stream. We'll just say output stream. So then we'll create a input stream, so buffered reader, br1 equals new buffered reader. Then we'll say new file reader. I think we could say new file up here too, but we don't have to, but you can. And then we'll say the path here, so C shift semicolon / users, so where the file is, so the file that we've already created with the, well, we didn't do it in the video, but I've already put a file in the desktop, on the desktop with the strings, the book titles in there, separated each file line. So we'll say the name and then desktop, then book titles.txt, that's what it's called. So just save yours as book titles.txt as well, unless you want to change the name. Okay, now we'll do instantiate buffered reader br1 reads a text. So we just did instantiate buffered reader 1. Then we'll say line equals br1.readLine. Sorry, so line 1 equals br1.readLine. Then we'll say we'll create the outer while loop. Then we'll say while line 1 does not equal to null. Well, line 1 does not equal to null. So while line 1 has a string, so we'll just read what readLine does. So readLine reads a line of text. A line is considered to be terminated by any one of a line feed, so a new line or a carriage return, so /n or /r, or at the end of the file, EOF. So reads a line of text, and a line is going to be terminated when there's a new line, a carriage return, or an end of file. So it's going to read the first line and not the next line. So it's going to read the first one. Excuse me. So it's going to say while line 1 does not equal to null. So while line 1, while there is a string for line 1, then we'll set isDupe equal to false. Then we'll create another buffered reader here, so buffered reader br2 equals to new buffered reader, and then we'll put another file path. So it's saying in, so it wants an input stream. Then we'll say new file reader. File name. We'll do the path again. So desktop. Then we'll read from temp book title, so the one that we just created, .txt. So we created that file with the print writer. Print writer is going to create that file and put it on your desktop. Same with temp book, or sorry, yeah, so both. It's going to create this and that and put it on your desktop. So temp book titles and duplicate titles are going to put both on your desktop. so it's not there, and then when we run this code, the files are going to appear. So buffered reader br2 instantiated to new buffered reader, new file reader, and the path. Then we'll say line 2 equals to br2.readLine. So this is going to be the inner while loop, and it's most likely, it's going to be null. It's going to not hit this condition the first time, or the first times until it's actually duplicated. So it's this part will basically, we're just gonna be a skip here for now. We'll just write it. So we'll say while line 2 does not equal to null, then if line 1 dot equals line 2, then we'll say is dupe is equal to true, and we'll say if output does not contain line 1 plus new line, then output equals output plus line 1 plus new line. So we'll go over it after. We'll try to go over it. Actually, we don't even have you can't even see my file because it's only a game recorder, but we can just talk about it after. So we'll say else system.out .print line processing. So before that while loop ends, I think we're going to put another line in there. So right there, we'll put some in here. So we'll say line 2 equals br2.readLine. Then under that, if is equal to false, then we'll say pw.print line 1, and then pw.flush. That flushes the output stream to make sure that the data gets sent, I think. So p print writer, pw is just print writer, our first print writer, and we're writing to the temp book titles. So I think what what the temp book titles is really doing is just printing the ones that aren't duplicated. So then after that, I think before that while loop ends, we'll just say something here. So we'll say line 1 equals to br1.readLine. And that's it pretty much. We'll just close the streams. There's a lot of braces on here. So we'll say pw2 dot print line output, and then pw2 dot flush br1 dot close, pw dot close, pw2 dot close, then system dot out dot print line completed. Don't think we need a capital for that. I guess we put one above, so we'll just put one here too. I guess it looks better anyways. So we'll say we'll just say completed. And there's some try and catch stuff here. Yeah, I think we're already done, so we can just write them. This code's kind of like when I was writing this code. Initially, it was kind of hard to understand, just because there were so many lines in my text file, and I was just going through them. It's kind of like loopy. When it gets into that loopy stuff, it's kind of hard to keep track of it. So maybe I wouldn't put more than like 10 lines, so you don't get confused when you're going through it. But if it's kind of on the fly, it's I mean, if you're really doing that, it's kind of annoying, right? To write the code if the strings are duplicated. Like, when are you gonna really need that? But you might. So if you ever do this, this code could come in handy in whatever you're trying to do. Like if you're working on something big or something. But most of the time you can just use the equals, right? Because it's just, for most text entries, it's more like for passwords and stuff, it's just one line. Or it's like one big line if you're really doing like big passwords or stuff, or big usernames. At most sentences, right? For like form data, maybe big lines. Whatever the max is, then you don't really need to do any more than the max. You don't need to do several lines, so you can just use one equal string most of the time. So I can't really think of when you would really need this, but maybe there is a time when you would. But anyways, we'll just finish this last part. So we're gonna catch our handlers. So that's our try statement there. Did we say try? I don't even think we said try. So we'll put a try. Do we forget the try? Yeah, we did forget the try. So just put a try here. Open the bracket. Actually, kind of looks weird like that, doesn't it? Maybe not. Well, kind of, because it's supposed to all be indented to here. So that's okay. We'll just say try that. Close the try, and then have a catch clause here. You just catch them at the bottom. They're pretty easy to write catches. And try, you just, whatever you want to try, just put a try around it. And just remember to put the catch block or the catch clause right underneath. And then here you just put what you're catching for. So we're catching for a file not found exception. We'll just call it E. Then we'll just say you can say system dot, well, we can do the exception message first. So E dot get message. Sometimes it's easier to do them last, but it doesn't matter. E dot print stack trace. Then we'll say system dot out dot print line. File not located. I don't think we need a capital for that one. We don't really need a capital for this either. And this one, don't need one for that. So we'll catch the file not found exception. Why is there an error here? Looks like we're missing a brace. Missing a brace. Usually I do the try outside of the main method, don't I? Try. I think we're missing a brace for somehow. That's what happens when we're trying to put it in at the end. Yeah, I think we are missing a brace, or maybe we already did. Put one? No, can't be right. Now it's working. Now it's saying that's not working. Something's funny here. Hopefully that fixed it. So we have a catch block. It's trying to format my braces. I don't like when it does that. There's a way to turn it off, but it's kind of hard to fix that. So then we'll catch Another exception will catch a null pointer exception. We'll call it E2. And we'll say E2.getMessage. And then E2.print stack trace. Then we'll just system.out.println null pointer. So after all that, we'll run it. There's probably a mistake somewhere, because these lines aren't even lighting up. Okay, so never mind, so it did work. Usually in our codes we have an error first, as you know. But it did work, so you should see all your duplicates in a file and all the other book titles in one file on your desktop, if you did the exact same thing I did. But now we'll try to go through the code. So we created some, so we did the main method, we threw IO exception, because IO exception is a checked exception, so you have to check for it, and by checking for it you have to throw it in a clause, or you have to catch it. So we threw it in any method that may throw or propagate it. So try. So the throw statement starts propagation. So we'll try for. So we start our method with a try to check for any of these exceptions. File not found exception and null pointer exception. And then we created 4 empty strings, output line 1, line 2, line 3, 1 boolean. Set it equal to false initially. We created 2 print writers, which are output streams, and they're going to write to these files. Temp.booktitles.txt, which was created as an empty file, and then duplicate titles.txt, it's an empty file. We put them on our desktop. Well, this is a Windows path, but if you're doing the Mac path, you might have to look it up. And then, or Linux. And then it should be similar. And then after we said buffered reader, so we created a buffered reader, which is an input stream to a file on our desktop. We put that file there before we wrote the code, called booktitles.txt. We set line 1 equal to br1 dot read line. So we set it equal to the first line in this text file. And as long as there is a string in that text file and it's not null, so we're setting line 1 equal to that string in that text file. Then this is outer while loop. We come down here. Then we say while line 1 does not equal to null. So while line 1 is equal to a string currently, or while there is a string in that file, is dup is again set to false. Then we create another input stream. We create a buffered reader to the file on our desktop called temp.booktitles. Right now it should be empty. It should be equal to null. That this file should be equal to null because it's empty right now. Then we set line 2 equal to br2.readline. So line 2 is equal to br2, right? Dot read line. So line 2, this string, empty string, is set equal to br2, which is this, also an empty file right now, or a null file. Dot read line. So while line 2 does not equal to null, well, that's currently, I don't know, like how it's keeps formatting my braces again. I have to turn it off. I think I turned it off on my laptop, but not on this computer. See, I don't want it like that. I want it like that. I'm not used to reading it like that. Super annoying, see? Can't even put it where I want it to go. Now it goes there, stupid thing. Okay, so after all that, what we said is basically line 2 is equal to null. So this whole while loop gets skipped, right? Because this condition was false. If that condition is false, the whole while loop, so the starting brace to the ending brace, we're going to skip that. Then we'll say if isDupe is equal to false, which it is, I think, because we haven't set it equal to true. We never got into that bracket where it does change that. So if isDupe is equal to false, we'll print pw.print line 1. So line 1 was initially equal to the first line in that book titles, in our book titles file. So we're going to print that line, and then we're going to make sure it's sent there by flush. Then, before the while loop ends, the outer while loop, again, is trying to format our braces. We'll say, so before, where were we? So we flushed it. Then before our while loop ends, we're setting line 1 equal to br1.read the next line. So you can keep doing that. So if we say it again, then we'll read the next line. So it reads the next line that we've already read, right? So it can continue to do that, I think. That's how this code's working. Like if you were going to print .next line, let's just pretend .next line, right? Like when you say scan.next line, then it keeps scanning the next one. That's what it's doing, it's scanning the next line. So line 1 is now equal to the second line in that file. Then, so after all that, we come back, so after it reads the next line in that file, the brace ends here. So just pretend it leaves that brace, and it goes right back up that line to that while loop, comes right back here, or whatever, let's just say right back there. It says, then again it says while line 1 is not equal to null, so while line 1 is still holding the next line in that text file, which is not null, it's holding a string. IsDupe again is set to false. Then we create the buffer reader again, we create an input stream to the temp book titles. Where are we writing this again? pw.print line 1. pw temp book. Yeah, so we're printing temp book titles, right? So while line 1, where are we? So while line 1, so it has the second line in the text file. IsDupe is equal to false. Buffered reader br2 is equal to new buffered reader. So it's gonna read, each time we do that, it's gonna start from the top of that temp book titles again, so that it can make sure if there's duplicates on different lines. So then we'll set line 2 equal to br2.readLine. So this time we have something in there, I think, because we printed it here. pw.print line 1, and pw is our temp book title. So now it has that first line in this book titles. It's been transferred to temp book titles, and then here we're reading it. Or here we've created an output stream to it. Then line 2 is equal to br2.read that line that we just pasted from book titles, copied. Then while line 2 does not equal to null, if line 1 equals to line 2. So if the line 1 in that next file is equal to that temp book titles that we just printed right now, then this is going to get hit. So that's how it finds the duplicates. So it's not equal to it, right? No, sorry, we got into that already. So now we're here. If line 1, so while line 2 does not equal to null, well, it's not null, it has a string. So now we're in here. If line 1 dot equals line 2, we're at that if statement. So it doesn't. So again, this whole block from here to this line all the way down here gets skipped. So then we say line 2 equals br2.readLine. So we're going to read the next line in that 10 book titles. But this time, there's not going to be anything on that second line. It's going to be equal to null. So this is the end of the while loop right here. We're going to go below these braces all the way back up that line right there to the top of the while loop again. The inner while loop. Not this one. The one down here. While line 2 does not equal to null. Well, this time it is equal to null. So now we're going to go down here to if isDupe is equal to false. So if isDupe is equal to false, print the next line. And the thing about this code is that there's a lot of loops and if statements, so you're probably going to get lost unless you're actually writing it down in a notepad to keep track. And that's the problem with this code. That's why I found it a little hard to do when I was doing it before, like when I did it in school. So hopefully that would help. And if you just keep going through it and if you write it down, it'll take a while, probably another half an hour, but you can go through it. And once I did that, I didn't go through the whole thing, but I kept going, and I kept going for at least 5 to 10 lines, maybe about 5 lines. But just do it, and I hope that helps, and I hope you can understand going through the code, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.